Hi, I'm Manda McKay. I'm a professional artist, and I'm going to be giving you creativity tips in these videos that will help you become a more creative person, regardless of your level of expertise in any creative field. Today's tip, I think, will be extremely freeing for you if you can take it to heart, and that is to let go of perfectionism by giving yourself permission to make mistakes. And that sounds easy enough, but if you're a person, I used to be an extreme perfectionist in all areas of my life, and especially when I was a teenager and I started to become pretty good at painting, I wanted every painting to be perfect. And unfortunately, that's really not the way it works, and that's not how you grow as an artist. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about giving yourself permission to make mistakes, what a difference it will make, and then how to actually do that. So, an example of somebody who was not giving himself permission to make mistakes was this guy that I knew in high school. He was a guitarist, and he really, really wanted to be a great songwriter. It was very important to him. And I remember I would ask, well, what songs have you written? He hadn't written a single song, not because he wasn't inspired or didn't have any ideas, but because he actually didn't want to write a song until he could write the best song ever, like the perfect song. And spoiler alert, the last time I checked in with him was like maybe 10 years after that. He still hadn't written a single song. And that's really tragic if you think about it. For somebody, this was something very important to him. And he just was afraid to ever get started because he was afraid that he was going to make a mistake. Now, with me as a professional artist, and I've achieved a pretty good level of success with my paintings. I'm predominantly a painter, but I would say that probably every 10th painting does not live up to my standards. I hate to call them a failure, because if nothing else, I hopefully would learn a few things about what not to do in these paintings from the ones that really didn't succeed and didn't come out like I wanted them to. And that helps me be better in the future. And I'm really not going to be able to get any better if I'm not painting. And of course, if I am painting, inevitably, I'm going to make some mistakes here and there. And sometimes I leave them in the painting and it's fine. And, you can't really tell there's something very subtle, but sometimes just the whole thing is off. And I've spent all this time painting it, and then I have to admit, yeah, I'm probably not gonna show this to anybody or do anything with this because it's just not up to my standards. So if you can just give yourself permission to make mistakes, it'll be so much easier to get started, and especially if you're in the early stages of whatever medium, whatever field you're working in, giving yourself permission to make mistakes is really going to give you a chance to grow. But how do you do that, especially if you're like a really extreme perfectionist like I was as a teenager? Well, the best way to do that, I think, is to pick a completely unrelated creative field or medium where you know you're going to suck at it probably because you've never done it before, and just try to create with this other field and see what happens, because probably, I mean, yeah, probably it's not going to turn out well. So if you're normally a poet or a writer of some sort, try drawing a portrait of somebody. Portraits are actually can be fairly difficult. So if you're not used to drawing, and especially not used to drawing a portrait, and you're a writer predominantly, it's probably going to turn out kind of terrible. But you know that going in, so if you go ahead and do it, even though it's maybe going to suck, you're giving yourself permission to make mistakes, and that's huge. And if you can do that with one medium, then hopefully you can take what you've learned about letting yourself make mistakes and bring that into the medium where you consider yourself to be more invested or more of an expert. An example for me at this point is making these videos. Now, I do want to be sure that the content that I'm getting across is what I want it to be and that the content is useful. And that's what it all comes down to. The technique in these videos, I think you can see, is probably, well, if my thing were filmmaking, I think you could argue that I'm not doing a great job with these videos. And they're definitely not how I initially pictured them. I wanted to have these like done with perfect lighting, not out here squinting in the sun, have my hair and makeup done. Instead, I cut my own hair recently and I hacked away a little bit more than I probably should because I don't know how to cut hair. And, I could have waited for it to grow out. And I didn't. I just went ahead and started, even though really this is just a glorified selfie. You probably can tell, but I'm actually holding the camera in my hand and I just have it kind of braced against a tree trunk so that it's not too unsteady. And this is not scripted. And again, you can probably tell this, but I just have a few key points that I want to touch on. I do want this to seem more immediate, like I'm talking to you face to face and not scripted. I could have like thought out every single word, but it would take me a lot longer to do these videos. And again, I'm just trying to touch on certain points and certain information in each of these videos, and I think these are still helpful, even if they're not perfect by any stretch. And I do think that I've been improving at these. This is actually my, I think, 11th video that I've done, and I think I've gotten better, at least at the, let's say, the camera work, for lack of a better term. So go ahead, and if you find yourself unable to give yourself permission to make mistakes with whatever is your chosen creative field, pick something that you know you're likely to be terrible at and just give it a shot. And remember that it's a growth experience and you're not going to get any better if you don't try and create something, even though it's not going to be perfect every time. And remember, even if you think that whatever you've created is a failure, that certainly does not mean that you are a failure. It means that you're growing and, okay, maybe this one didn't turn out as well as you wanted, but we all have to start somewhere and keep at it. Just keep giving yourself permission to make mistakes and learn from them. And your art, whatever it is that you work in, will improve and it will get better over time. So thank you again for watching. My name is Manda McKay.